this is something that is very important to me for why I teach people to speak dialogue two-way with spirit guides, is because just like me, they start putting the hand in the hand, and I teach them to make sure it's the right person that's arriving. But then you're off on a journey with the spirit mentor who starts teaching you on the inside. The penny drops start happening faster on the inside. The learning curves. You've got opportunities to stand in front of a being like that and ask questions, important questions about your life, about circumstances in your life, about people in your life, about yourself, and have two-way answers. Nothing vague. I'm impatient with vagueness. Vague signs to me are not enough. I actually want to know how a quantum particle works.
Looking for the best astrology guidance? You can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Serious Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for. Daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone, 7 days a week.
It's Serious Joy, Joy, Joy.
Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented lightworkers and innovative influencers of our time. One of the topics I'm personally most fascinated by is our ability as humans to connect to the other world, our spirit guides, and to receive help from above. And tonight's guest is a master of that ability. Alicia Powers is a teacher, a healer, and a master intuitive. For over a decade, Alicia has been initiated to hold extreme high-frequency spirit light and brings that light to clients with what she terms highlight infusions and advanced spiritual technology to activate change and in order to heal wounds. She's authored 20 transformational online courses. She's been a regular guest on Conscious Telesummits and hosts a free YouTube channel with over 1.5 million views. Please join me in sending waves of love and gratitude to welcome our guest, Step Zero Aries, Alicia Powers. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm just incredibly excited to be here with you, Christopher. And, just huge kind of admiration for what you do. 2006, that blew my mind when you said that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's really nice to make your acquaintance. And I'll just tell you right now, you were recommended by many of our viewers. I put out the call and said, who do you want to see me interview? And forgive me, I had not seen your work until then. You're very modest, I must say, even though incredibly powerful. And I love the work you are doing. You seem to be plugged in like with a power cord straight to God. Were you always this way? I mean, what was it like growing up as a child? Were you psychic aware as a child? Did your family support that? If so?
So interesting, really interesting kind of story. Just really quickly, both my parents were Polish, and I think a little bit like you. And they came out, they were in the Second World War. My dad was an officer in the army, was in a prison of war camp for 5 years, and a German prison of war camp. And my mum was on the border of Russia, her family, and got deported, just like they're doing now, into Russia, into Siberia, when she was 14 with a whole lot of brothers and sisters, little brothers and sisters, with their dad. 2 years, tough in there, sub minus 50 degrees, terrible. And by a miracle, they all got out, and they all found their way to New Zealand because these little kids were just farmed out all over the world afterwards. They actually met and married in London, just really quickly trying to get this story. But there's a huge sort of reason I'm telling the story, and that is that they walked out of a situation where they watched God, spirit, angels, saints, in that Christian tradition, save them many times. As dad, my father was, as an officer or as a soldier, he was in an empty field, and a Messerschmitt was coming at him, spitting out bullets. And he thought, well, this is it. And he curled up and nothing happened. And he just knew. He went, okay, I'm alive for a reason. Anyway, they emigrated to New Zealand and had a huge family, and I was one of that family. And but I kind of grew up in this womb or the sphere or this energetic kind of envelope of, the spirit world saves you. The spirit world's real. It's because they had so many circumstances where things should not have happened. They should not have been alive. And anyway, lots of like strong faith, not because somebody just told them to, but because they watched it happen that many times. And so I kind of grew up with a mum and dad, especially my mother, who just chatted to her saints. And
Wow.
yeah, and kind of knew that miracles happened when she asked for them. So this, and I will, they've passed away, the two of them. And I talked to them on the other side, but
So I'm wondering, yeah.
yes, oh my gosh. And I was just going to say that around about the age of 16, 17, I was in my last years of secondary school, and then went to university, and I just could feel myself peeling away. There was this strange moment in my kind of last week of secondary school. It was a Christian Catholic secondary school, and sort of the oldest girls were having a bit of a holiday somewhere in some kind of a holiday house. And we were having this ceremony, the mass ceremony. And the priest looked at me and laughed. And I think I was so pious. And he cracked up. And in the middle of this, something broke in me. And I realized, and we all sort of ran out onto the beach or something later, and I could feel God everywhere. And this kind of mental reset happened, like, oh my God, God's everywhere. Not in a church. There's no sort of framework for God. It's just everywhere. Who knows? He never knew what he did, that this priest. It kind of snapped me out of some kind of a framework, an old framework. But went to university and started to follow an Indian spiritual guru to learn how to meditate. Coming out of a big family, it was really noisy. And I wanted mental stillness. I was so hungry to dive inside into deep mental stillness. Now, this Indian spiritual guru was so powerful, so plugged into so much an avatar of just merged with God source and the real deal. There are many in India that are the real deal. There are a lot of them that aren't, and there's some that really, really are.
It seems like it.
Yeah, this guy had like 5,000 year lineage, and so learning the meditation techniques wasn't just meditation techniques. It was actually getting initiated into a stream of this lineage of consciousness. And so 16 years following this particular Indian spiritual master, and meditating an hour in the morning, hour at night. Excuse me. And when I was really early on in those 16 years, I was invited to join a group of people who wanted to dedicate their lives to God. And we sort of stepped into ashram mode. And for 6 years, celibate. This is like when I was 21 through to about 26, right? And just in service, meditation, just full focus, a bit like a nun, in a convent. And then we were invited to let go of that framework because it wasn't suiting the Western mentality. And but I took with me this internal kind of compass of committing and dedicating my entire life to God. And so, but here I was following an Indian spiritual master, doing deep spiritual practice, meditation, such a bedrock of that mental stillness, right? And and then in my early 30s, 31, 32, I could feel the universe just coming and tapping me on the shoulder, and I left that whole system, and universe was really asking me to open up my psychic awareness for the reason, and this is the sort of really big story here. The reason was, and the feeling I had when I was wanting to open up my psychic awareness, was I wanted to get to know my own soul. I wanted to know its past lives. I wanted to know its skills, its talents. I wanted to know who I've been. I wanted to know the scope of my soul. And that was a deep hunger in me, that kind of logical mind, knowing the stories, meeting my soul. So opening up my psychic awareness was for a very important reason, was to meet a spirit mentor. A mentor who could talk back to me, who could see all of my past lives, who could see all of me and start to walk with me and mentor me on the inside. And that was my entire reason for opening up my psychic awareness. And I just sat up in bed and read a book, read an exercise, closed my eyes and did it. And immediately this presence, this energy came, and I was testing it. And I sort of didn't believe it to start with. And then I realized, oh my God, okay, maybe it is. Maybe it is, maybe it's real. And I was a journalist at the time, and I was very curious, like coming from this huge sense of curiosity. And as I was starting to open up those very first moments of, you know, who are you? And actually asking them as though it's a person, you know, where are you from and what's your name? And I realized this really, really key thing, which was that this was a master trainer, a master teacher who was trying to teach me something and tell me like a universe course level of information with one word. Because to start with, I was like this shut down concrete person, right? I kind of hadn't been opening up to the worlds of spirit. That hadn't been my path. And this is what's really interesting for everybody listening, because a lot of people are in meditation practice, you know, doing your yoga practice, doing your meditation practice. But that piece of opening your conscious logical mind up to having two-way conversations with a spirit guide is a whole nother piece. and for me, I was incredibly, I think intuitively, I just was super passionate about that, because as a journo, I was information driven. And if I could open up that concrete, if I could melt the concrete wall, which I did, I practiced like every single day. I just stopped, pushed my attention to that spot, called on that being and asked a question and to see what would happen. And over that week and over the next week and over the next week, that one word that would come back turned into 3 words and then turned into a whole sentence. And, you know, and then pretty quickly, just like getting on a bike, everyone, and I'm kind of telling you the steps actually.
Yeah,
like
sounds like it.
Yeah. And like getting on a bike, you start realizing what's going on here. And what's going on is, as they send you the information back, they're actually sending you the words to your logical mind, but they're also sending a huge energetic transmission underneath that towards you. And just really quickly, I'm a teacher of this. I've been teaching this for 30 years, right? So I'm just going to start teaching this. So we are all an auric field. We're all an electromagnetic field. So every one of us is just this force field, a morphogenic field. And so is the spirit guide, 2 beautiful light fields. And so when the spirit guide wants to send you information, because you've triggered it by asking them, they will be sending it as energy straight into the energy field. And your energy field is 90% of who you are, because your logic is really only 10%, what we pick up with our logical mind and what our attention is registering. And a lot of the subliminal instant impression information transmissions are happening slightly below logic. And so I'm always teaching everyone to get really smart in that moment when they're sending a question to a spirit guide, to get really smart about that 90% of that energetic transmission that's coming towards you, straight into your, what I call knowing. So in those very first weeks, I started to realize, like jumping on a bike, I was like, oh, okay, I got this. This is not just thought transference. This is actually kind of knowing transference, like below my thoughts. So that's how I started. And that was 30 years ago. And I'd already been running workshops and teaching for like 16 years, right? From stages, delivering satsang, what's called in Sanskrit, delivering, oh goodness, almost pretty much channeled speeches from the stage for 16 years. And so as soon as I opened up my psychic awareness with my spirit guides, I went, okay, I'm going to start teaching this, right? Because I was in that mode. So I started teaching it. And because I felt, and I'm sure you would appreciate this, Christopher, like I could feel the steps of what I was doing and I could just pass that on. So I guess that's what a journo does. They just pass things on.
You say generator?
Journalist.
Oh, journalist. Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you're like an Oprah Winfrey to spirit guides or something. You're sitting there, you've got them on your couch and you have the courage to say, I like what you say when you say there's a knowing. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, you're much better at it to describe being psychic and being intuitive. But the strongest thing I really resonate with you is that you just know. And it's really, so about being aware, psychically aware, it's more about to me, it seems like it's about standing on the side of you that knows more than it is about accepting the message.
I really love that.
Conversation with, is this real? You were saying that there was this moment where so what was that like, that first moment of, is it's real? What sort of back and forth did you go through
Yes.
when you discovered gold?
I discovered gold. Oh my gosh, my life, they just accelerated me and pushed me forward into spiritual leadership, just letting everybody know that's kind of what starts to happen. So in that moment, is this real? I guess I'm kind of like this jivey sort of person, right? And I'm kind of like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm reading these exercises. I just want to quickly say this one quick thing, which is that if you've trained your mind for mental stillness, if you've done tons of meditation, if you've done years of quietly sitting and going into meditation, if you've done yoga for many, many years, you're used to the state of mental stillness. Buddhists talk about this, that a lot of the monks who just focus on meditation practice start getting psychic. And they don't focus on it. It's not their dharma, they're not making it their thing in their life, but it starts to happen. They start hearing, if they're in a nature place, they start hearing the whispers from nature. They start knowing, quote unquote, what something's transmitting to them in that kind of psychic language of knowing, instant knowings. So mental stillness, it's a thing. So it's very much, if people have got that question in their minds of, oh, I can't hear anything, there's a whole lot of sort of almost state changes that you can trigger and switch, make sure that you switch on to help you, like oil and water, come closer and closer to a sense of connection with a spirit guide. So quite specific switches, things that open your heart, things that silence your mind. Spiritual practices. It's almost like it's the welcome mat into the world of noticing what's going on at that whispering level, in that subtle level of those instant knowings and those instant bits of information flying around in the psychic worlds. So yeah, Christopher, I really love what you just said just then, that you feel like you want to, you intuitively and instinctively step into the part of you that knows, and just let it be that.
Allow it. And it sounds like what you're suggesting is that it's not that meditation connects us to the other side. It's that it quiets this side that might be in the way. It sounds like, sort of like when the TV goes off. When I was a kid, the TV goes off and the house is quiet because maybe the power went out or something. You suddenly notice sounds you never heard before because the TV's off. So it's about shutting off that noise.
Oh my God, that is such a great analogy for me, I have to tell you. I live in a place full of nature and we watch television at night, my husband and I, and sometimes if that television isn't on, you just feel the peace surrounding you. It's the great analogy. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this beautiful nugget of information for everybody who wants to connect with their spirit guides. Switches like preparing yourself for the moment of connecting with your spirit guide. And one of them is put on beautiful music. I always talk about Stephen Halpern type music, which is like really zone music. And it just pushes you into a meditation state, really, just by listening to the music, and it entrains you, right? And it trains that chatter, that TV screen that's just talking all the time. But the key thing about putting music on, this is for people who are wanting to start talking to their spirit guides and wanting to make sure everything is at its maximum potential for you to hear your spirit guide. So put on some beautiful music, one, to quieten your mind, but also to open your heart. Because the spirit world, as you know, Christopher, I've been listening to you and I just think you're such a sensei.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, I'm going, this guy is just such a high soul. You're such a high soul and you know so much. I have to quietly say that here on air. Anyway.
But thank you.
Yes. So preparing your state, your mental state, you're opening your heart, the oil and water, just bringing the resonant states to together. Heart, feeling love, whatever it is, pat a puppy. Look at something on television where it's love and your heart opens. I'm not sure. Meditate. So I mean, I'm not sure about that TV thing, but sit and meditate, open your heart. When we meditate, the spirit world comes closer because we're quietening. We're quietening our electromagnetic field. Our chakras are opening up. Our third eye chakra opens up. Our heart chakra opens up, and it's softer. We become softer, and those spirit guides come closer. It's an excellent time. All of you watching this probably know this already, but that's a great time. We're talking about an interface. It's like a membrane. It's like a plasma. And we're talking about how to work with that membrane, how to work with that interface, how to bring our consciousness and open the dial, turn up the volume of your awareness. My spirit teams talk about this word noticing, so that your awareness is noticing their transmission to you.
It's very subtle.
Yeah. And you get used to it like jumping on a bike, just wanting to say. And you start, and that's why my story is important, because everybody listening and watching this, if I can do it, you can do it. And here I am 30 years later, right? And we're just good mates in my head.
You also mentioned in your videos that intuition is a feeling exercise. And many of my clients have a hard time interpreting their feelings. What sort of structure do you use to interpret your feelings?
So not so much interpret your feelings, but to feel your feelings, to notice them. And one of the first things is to take a deep breath. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Because when you take a deep breath, you soften, your mind calms down. Spirit can step into or come closer to you when you take a few deep breaths, because it's called, aspiration for a reason, Breathing brings you closer to the spirit world. It's just behind your breath, everybody. Just behind your breath is God force pushing your breath, is the chi energy pushing your breath. So it's so tied in with your breath. So when you take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to just drop down from your mental state down into your heart. And you can visualize that by dropping down an elevator down into your chest, like a little person. Pretend you're a little person and you've dropped down into your heart. And it's a discipline. Okay, so it's like you're deliberately stopping all thought. It's a little bit tricky, isn't it?
Yes.
And then becoming present with yourself. And funnily enough, when you do that, you might feel a little bit of sadness floating up to the surface. Let it come up, because once that has come up, once some kind of emotion comes up, and it might come up through your throat and right up, once some emotion comes up, you're much more still afterwards. Your mind is more still. I just want to say, really interesting, if anybody's done therapy or worked with emotions, you know that once you've become present to your emotions and to your feelings and put your attention on them, and they come up to your attention and release out, because once your attention's on them, they actually kind of just flow out. There's a quiet afterwards. It's like doing yoga or aerobic exercise. You feel quiet afterwards because you've expelled energy. You've expelled. It's one of the huge tips to happiness. I'm going to be sharing a little bit later on, I think, is physical exercise, aerobic exercise, or fast walk. You're actually pushing, because my spirit guides showed me energy healing and started to teach me energy healing way back 30 years ago. And I would have clients on these healing tables, and my spirit mentors and huge teams of these spirit technicians would be coming in and cutting and splicing light waves in people's auric fields in order for that person to feel lighter afterwards, or to realize themselves as a soul afterwards, to lift their whole perspective afterwards. That's their reasoning and the reason they would be coming in and working on someone. Where was I going with this? I've got to remember. Yeah, I'm just letting you guys know that I've been looking into auric fields for a very, very long time. What was I talking about, Christopher? Just remind me.
Well, we're in the cosmos with you right now. Just so you know, we started off talking about just the sensation of a feeling, and
yeah.
That was the beginning of the conversation, and you were down where you described how you want to get to the feeling of peace, and that breath work was important to that, and you drew an analogy that exercise or yoga brings you to that state of peace. Or that state of calm afterwards. And then you were starting talking about your auric, your ability to heal. And I understand that too. I do the same thing, by the way, what you just did all the time when I'm off, because you're channeling, and if you focus on the channel, like away from the channel for 1 second. Yeah. Do your guides have literal names that you call them, or personalities, or there's a recognitional feeling of like, oh, there he is, or there she is, or is that kind of rapport?
Yeah, both. Because I'm this tech kind of a person, right? In terms of how to talk to your spirit guides and how to work with them. And I've got a course on how to partner with your spirit guide for soul evolution, like really in depth, all channeled, letting them telling us, right, how they can work with us. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Both. So when I introduce somebody into how to talk to their spirit guides and how to hear their spirit guides, for me, it's a bit unusual from a lot of people I know who do this kind of work, who teach this kind of work, but it's really important for me to know the name of my spirit guide. And one of the reasons is that they are morphogenic fields out in the quantum soup. And actually, their name is a sound code. It's the phone number. Way out in that super matrix of that quantum soup, when you use that particular sound code of their name, sometimes it's John Fred, sometimes it's a bunch of it's a kind of a name that you're not used to. You never know what kind of a name it might be. It doesn't matter, because they'll choose something that's close to the kind of sound code. And I'm kind of giving like hitting a gong, boing, because that's really the truth of how they relate to names. It's like a sound going through the universe, or it's like a light ray or a color ray, a ray of color or something. It's like a sound. So that's them. And so their name refers to that. And so when you use their name to call on them, you're getting the right guy, you're getting the right person, the right woman, whatever it is. Because it's a jungle out there, everybody. I've been trained like for 30 years. They were sticking my nose into the worlds of spirit and showing me around and up and down and all over the place. And so I've had extensive training in just about every corner, and from them directly. And yeah, so in my book, the name is really important, because you're getting the right person. You're sort of reconnecting to someone that you might have had a beautiful initial process to connect to, got their name, and then afterwards you can use their names to make sure it's that right person. But on the other hand too, I work with many different teams personally. Many,
that was my next question.
Many spirit teams. Very, very high. Something I'm now known for, but I've worked with for 30 years. They introduced themselves to me 30 years ago. Creator level beings. These are beings who operate from beyond this universe, beyond this spirit universe. They oversee universes, high in authority and high in the authority levels in the worlds of spirit. So, and the value of that is speed of shifting soul wounds, speed of upgrading somebody's consciousness and their self-awareness and their self-perception and their self-love and so many things. So the speed, so that's the value of that. But so I work with many different types. So really, really high, intermediary, and more closer to the physical, with physical body kind of spirit beings and technicians. And of course, when I'm working on an auric field, various different technician teams show up, and quite an array. And most of them have got a name or a sound code, but some are more of a resonance. Not many. It's not that often that you sort of lean on just a resonance. Usually they will bend over backwards and ensure that they give you a name, because from their point of view, from what I've learned for 30 years, is it's important. They know how important it is that you ask for the right spirit guide. I can talk for hours about this.
Yeah, I love it.
Feel free to interrupt.
Oh, no, I'd like to. There's nothing boring at all. Like there's not one moment it's not interesting. How do you have any idea of how they see you? Is this something that you and Heaven agreed to parachute down and be this ground agent, or did they just notice, wow, this lovely woman in Australia is actually listening to us? Or do you have any idea of what the soul contract was with your guides?
Definitely a soul contract. Yeah.
Okay.
Soul, this particular soul has been trained to hold creator level light from many other incarnations and other soul existences way beyond human incarnations. So yeah, definitely trained. Hit the ground running, like at 16, wanting to meditate.
It sounds like it when you describe your early 20s, which I believe are all reincarnation catch up. The fact that you were basically in an ashram by 30,
by 20, by 21.
Oh my goodness. That tells me that this is many lifetimes in the making. And you said this soul was created for. Could you elaborate on that?
The soul was created.
I think you said this lifetime or this
trained.
soul. Oh, trained. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was trained. Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Now you also bring up a term called quantum blueprint. I've been geeking out on all your videos on your YouTube channel. I'm not stalking you. Don't worry. I'm
happy.
What is a quantum blueprint?
Yeah. Okay. So, as soon as you close your eyes, call on, by the way, I just want to quickly say, make sure that I remember this is the question. One of the things that I do a lot of, and those 20 courses are a collection, a catalog of these recorded spirit journeys. So, and we do this still live. We've got powerful monthly live events that we get taken up into the worlds of spirit, and what they do is incredible with us. But I'm really, really into taking people up into the worlds of spirit groups, where they stand in front of their spirit mentors and have moments with their spirit mentors, dialogue two-way with them, ask them for help with shifting their life, ask them for help with recognition of themselves as a soul. You can imagine, right, what happens if they're standing in front of an advanced high authority spirit mentor who's traveled a long way down to be with them. So many, many, many of these spirit journeys are recorded, and that's what all my courses are. All of them kind of on an angle, on a specific training teaching angle. So when you are in the worlds of spirit, when we've been taken up into the worlds of spirit, we're very aware that surrounding us is a massive quantum ocean of quantum energy. And especially if one is doing energy work, where when we're in the worlds of spirit and we're partnering with spirit technicians, our role in that moment is to kind of get out of the way, not really, because we're the door for them to come through into this physical dimension, to see what I'm seeing, to perceive what I'm perceiving. My perception is like a periscope for them. So I'm really playing a role in that partnership with them. But to work with the plasma, the fabric of the quantum world, is what we do. We work with the quantum world in our personal quantum field, but also we become very aware that there are so many different kinds of spirit teams floating around in that quantum world, many of them with an agenda, many of them with a role to play, that are overseeing and supporting humanity or Mother Earth's beautiful electromagnetic field. Everyone's on a mission. These teams are all on a mission, keeping away some of the naughty shadow teams that are around, floating around as well. So, as I say, it's a jungle out there. And so, as a very experienced floater in the quantum, it's important to stay close to your spirit mentors and the beings that are working with you in that moment. Follow them, watch what they're trying to get you to have a look at. Because once you start playing with them and working with them, they will start showing you around, and they'll start showing you what you can handle, like a striptease. It's like, piece by piece, they'll start revealing more and more and more. This is something that is very important to me for why I teach people to speak dialogue two-way with spirit guides, is because just like me, they start putting the hand in the hand, and I teach them to make sure it's the right person that's arriving. But then you're off on a journey with the spirit mentor who starts teaching you on the inside. The penny drops start happening faster on the inside. The learning curves. You've got opportunities to stand in front of a being like that and ask questions, important questions about your life, about circumstances in your life, about people in your life, about yourself, and have two-way answers. Nothing vague. I'm impatient with vagueness. Vague signs to me are not enough. I actually want to know how a quantum particle works. I want to know how an atom works. If I ask a spirit mentor, how does an atom work? Do you know what they're going to do? They're going to, in my closed eye state, they're going to gently help me move into the center of all the oscillations and feel them, so that I grok and understand instantly how it's all working. So that's the kind of university, that one can start working with when one takes on a mentor, or you start working closely with a spirit guide. That's the value. And that's why I said, that moment, are you real? Is this real? Oh my goodness. That was the beginning of a powerful inner journey of training, of learning, very high gradient learning curves, of cleaning up my auric field, of cleaning my soul history, cleaning up the soul wounds from my soul history, so that the scaffolding of my light body is clean, so it's sturdy and it's secure. So old past lives, rips and tears and gateways where shadow might be lurking are closed down and healed. And that's very much 50% as much as information learning and the grokking and the walking you into experiences on the inside, but also cleaning up the pots and pans, the clattering pots and pans of the soul, of the that old trajectory of the soul, that huge poignant journey of the soul, where the soul's just traveled through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Christopher, as an astrologer, you must see that in charts, all the past lives.
Oh, yes, actually. And there's a coding to what has to be. I want to go to the cleaning up part, because I kind of feel, I don't know if you caught the beginning of my broadcast, but I kind of feel like, what the planets say is that we've been basically on assignment to clean until about this year. It's been all cleaning, in particular since 2012. At least the planets have been pushing us energetically in that direction. And how do you define cleaning when you say that? I mean, in literal sense, is it that emotion comes up when I think about my father? Is it I'm still feeling angry about my childhood. Are there feelings? Is that how you interpret the dirty dishes?
Yeah. Let me just see how to answer that. It's such a beautiful question. Thank you so much. Every soul is so unique. Every soul has just walked through so many experiences. Just really quickly, it's very important to know that some of us have decided before all human lifetimes, this is getting advanced, before all human lifetimes, there was an 80% trajectory and journey of the soul before starting human lifetimes. And in that 80%, we were choosing all kinds of challenges and experiences and learning curves. We had mentors above us who were allowing those learning curves and watching us go through them. And they were there afterwards to debrief and sometimes to step in when we got into trouble. But I just want to say that what we were all doing was experimenting with a resonance, was experimenting with light and dark, and, tasting it. And some of us, because at this time, I know it's really important, Christopher, you talk about this a lot, at this time, right? What's happening at this time on planet Earth? We're on stage right now. So in order for us to arrive at this time and incarnate at this time with a backload of knowledge and skill sets about shadow, so that you can see it coming a mile away and know what it actually is and be ready to work with it correctly, quote unquote, so that you don't get sucked in and tricked because it mimics light, so that you don't get tricked, so that. In order for that to happen, some souls, many souls, decided to travel down into darkness, into shadow, and become part of the teams and the tribes down there in shadow, learnt, rubbed their noses in it, downloaded a lot of it into their auric fields, and then came back up for air and got lifted back up into the light in order to be on stage now, in warrior mode, knowing what shadow is, not being afraid of intensity. Now, just in contrast, there are many souls who decided not to do that, not to wound themselves that badly, and stay much higher up in those higher regions of light, not travel down and get wounded down in the shadow with the shadow teams. Those kind of souls that have incarnated at this time today are a different kind of soul. They're not interested in intensity. They don't like it. They like music, babies, flowers, love, soft. And they hold a resonance. So they're doing a job. They are very deliberately their souls. Our souls do a job that quite often we don't know it's doing. So those kind of souls are just holding love. But the warrior souls that have walked into getting ripped apart and downloading shadow into their auric field have stepped onto stage right now, ready to stand up, be in leadership, face shadow, walk straight into it, knowing what it is, comfortable with intensity. Often, often they understand the rigged money systems and the business people, and it's the cut and thrust of the jungle, and they're very comfortable with that. But often these people who are standing up in leadership, in their strength, in their huge skill set around intensity, they are wounded. They do have clattering pots and pans. They do have a huge soul trajectory and an ancient soul history where that shadow still is sitting as a software. I haven't mentioned this yet before, but because I am feeling into the resonance spaces, into the quantum worlds a lot every day, over those 30 years, I've come to understand, and watching the technicians and how they work, I've come to understand that light and shadow are software. It's a software. It's a binary software. It's an on and off switch. And these spirit technicians, when they go in and work with light waves, they're going into the coding inside the light waves, which is holding nearly unlimited data, and they're changing the coding. they're pulling out old coding, like a virus kind of coding, shadow coding. Literally, I watch this every day, and they drop a new kind of coding into those light waves of somebody that they're working on, so that a new resonance, everybody understands this when I'm saying this, a new resonance starts radiating in your auric field, and a new kind of spiritual intelligence just starts instantly replicating throughout your auric field and informing your whole auric field and informing the base of who you are. So you literally step from one platform onto another platform when that software gets changed. So so people who have walked through hellfire in order to stand comfortable in the face of shadow in a world today where everybody can see shadow right up front. It's playing itself out beautifully. So those people need help. They need love. They need healing. They need cleaning. And what cleaning means is, I don't do personal sessions anymore, but on inside of all of those recorded sessions, when we go up to the worlds of spirit, teams of spirit beings, we jump on spirit healing tables, and teams of spirit beings just come and start traveling psychically into these ancient wounds, into these coordinate points, and read the story, read the ownership papers of all the sort of ownership stamps that are there, all the codes, unravel it, change it, what they call change it, just do super fast work, close gateways, talk to the owners of the shadow that had implanted so much coding there in that spot, and close it down, just clean it up, and do it really solidly, do it like permanently. This is the really key point. So it's not leaky. And so over time, when you work with these beings like this, you get solid, you get strong in your light. Purpose of life.
Fascinating.
Purpose of life is to hold light.
Yes, to hold light. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And would you call these wounds, in my experience of the wounds and healing my own wounds, for I definitely went into those worlds and fought in those shadows. And I've been healing my life this whole lifetime. Would you define the wound as almost where that code, that dark code, is where you maybe have a consciousness to turn against love, or you may have a thought to that programming might be to doubt or to fear instead of to know and to appreciate? Like, it almost feels like we've twisted our own energy against ourselves when I feel into it.
Yeah.
As far as what these wounds are. And so they're kind of circulating, or they're coagulating, or they're not. Almost like I see them as purple spots when I look in my third eye, almost like the sun has spots. How would you define what these wounds are from a conscious perspective? You say code. What's the human experience of that wound?
Yeah. What a great question for your audience. Help me here, Christopher. Just help me with this, because no, you're absolutely right. So it feels like you trip over yourself a lot. It feels like relationships crash because there's deep wound frequency, energetic frequency radiating out, projecting out, and people bounce off that. For a start, projects fail. Really, your electromagnetic field around you is projecting chaotic static into the holographic reality screen.
Okay.
So realities. But exactly what you're saying, though, that's on the outside when you're noticing it, realities just not staying solid, not stepping through and birthing and staying stable. But what you're saying is that human experience, a constant nagging feeling that you're not enough. It's doubt, as you're saying, doubts and negative feelings, thought loops, negative thought loops. It's really close to the surface and that in the subliminal. So it's really, really just below the surface. And hesitations, frustrations, it's all on that bandwidth. Projecting out onto others, dissatisfied, just a general feeling of disappointment. And so a lot of these kind of resonances inside of oneself, and self-hate, as we all know, it sits right there, right at the core. And if I said that that was just a software and that these teams can pull that out and heal that self-hate, and that pretty much nearly instantly one has, and I'm not talking about like deep trauma from childhood, right? That's got to be unraveled with a facilitator. And that needs a lot of self-awareness education, so that you're watching yourself and observing yourself and self-correcting and self-regulating. But I'm just saying, just generally speaking, realities get attracted to you that are not optimal, but also it's very, very, very intense on the inside. Your thought loops can be very intense. Your Christopher, you tell me. Just a few more words here.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right on it. You're affirming everything. You're affirming what I was sensing. I mean, I have an experience, and you're speaking to it. Let's put it that way.
Tell me about your experience.
Well, for me, actually, I just went through what I call a Chiron return, which happens at 49. And in astrology, your Chiron represents that your box of wounds. Probably the biggest wound you came to tackle and heal in this lifetime is Chiron's placement in your chart. And of course, the planets really are just frequencies, frequency within frequency within frequency within frequency within frequency. So a planet in a sign at a degree number, So it's this stack of frequencies. It's literally like it's code. I see it as code. Literally numbers 0 through 11 is the way my system works, but I think there are many systems that can see it from a different parenthetical observation. But the best way to explore it is to expand is like, just when things are going good, I put my foot in my mouth, there's like a self-sabotaging moment where something is bugging you under the ways experience these wounds is something is irritating you or bugging you or throwing you off center or whatever. But in my experience with reading, it usually comes down to a major mistake in a past life that was repeated again in a different way, that was repeated again in a different way. Like so it represents almost like a worm of conscious wounds through lifetimes, through timelines, where each time my soul left upset and wishing it was different. So the soul's holding on to an outcome. So our own fist is sort of keeping those wounds together in each of these lifetimes. And they all sort of, to me, keep you from really just being magnificent and shining bright.
Yeah.
So it feels like parts of ourself are being held back from these regrets, pains, memories, concerns. And what it sounds like you're saying is that your team of light can go in there without even a lesson learned.
That's it.
No price to pay. No, I'm going to show you from spirit. It sounds like this can be untwisted and detangled and healed miraculously, which I don't know. I've heard stories of Atlantis having chambers that do this. I've heard when we reincarnate, we go to a chamber right away and we get sort of showered and cleaned. Is this all the same? Yeah.
That's exactly
are we all
right.
talking about the same thing here?
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing. And that's exactly right. What happens after we pass over. That's right. Go into chambers. That's exactly right. And they just go in and start clearing all those compassionately, like to lift the soul higher. Compassionately, they go right into those wounds. Yes. So these technicians are very advanced. They're very high authority that I work with now. I got passed up to them over time in that first decade. And they've got the authority, because they sit quite high up in authority. They've got the authority to do a couple of things. I'm going to start mentioning something very advanced here, which is that those soul wounds that keep repeating themselves karmically are being monitored and mentored from the shadow teams, from specific shadow mentors that interacted with you, say in Atlantis, or say in some other big, huge crash and burn moment. Something that led you to that initial rip, that initial collapse, and you walked out of that experience, out of that lifetime, shattered and, quite sort of ripped up. So what I want to say here, which for some reason my spirit guides want me to say this right now for everybody, because it's grown up stuff, we can all handle this. There's actually specific mentors who take you on to provide the crash and burn experience. And whether they do that on a higher holistic level, so that you build resilience, or because there is that level, or whether they are just mean and just want to keep tripping you up and poking the wound all the time. And I know this sounds a little...
Are there both? Not to
yes,
are there both intentions? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
There's some just galactic bullies that get off on it. And there are some that are wise, I guess, reformed bullies.
But the key thing I want to quickly say is that when you do start, I guess this is an ad, guys, to start working with these, I just pile in as many people as possible in front of these beings, and encourage you to pick up one of my courses and jump into some of these spirit journeys, to stand in front of these guys and start the process. Anyway,
yes,
because one of the things that they do, and they have easy capability of doing this, these particular teams that I work with, the reason people work with me is because they connect up to the partnerships that I've got. That's one of the reasons people start working with me. They want to connect to these high guys and start working with them. Having said that, now these guys,
you're the woman to know.
These guys, these beings, what I want to say is they easily have much higher authority, or the required authority, to travel psychically down those corridors, down those tunnels, and say, for example, find that original crash and burn wound of what happened. And in that moment, one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, is what they do is find out who was puppeteering that entire circumstance, who surreptitiously started to leak their shadow resonance into the back door that caused your beautiful auric field to start getting populated with a software that was a corruption software, and started to drip feed an idea and it'll be all right, or I'll go to the left rather than the right, or I'll believe that corrupt high priest or something. I'll believe them. They must be right because they're a high priest, when in actual fact they're just full of, BS. But in the back door, that software came, but it was being mentored. It was being very deliberately sort of drip fed and organized in order for that big crash and burn. So everybody hearing this, there's puppeteering going on in the spirit world on a huge degree. And this is why I stay close with my spirit guides, because at any moment in time, I can call on one of them to stand next to me, to look at something, to look at me, to look at someone else, to look at a circumstance, and let me know what's really going on. And if I need it, if I need something at any moment, and I'm still have my normal life every day, they can travel into my auric field and with their authority see the truth of who's puppeteering something that's just jumped into me, and start, what I was going to say was, they go to those shadow mentors and transmute them back into light. That's all.
The actual originating perpetrator of the puppeteering. Okay.
Yes.
So they reach through the victim, if you want to call it that, and they end up, aha, I caught you.
Yes, exactly.
Back to the light. So they end up being sort of
very high authority.
That's fascinating. So this opens up the whole world of, so puppeteering is a real nice way, and software is a real nice way too. I like the way you're looking at this, because you're moving away from the narrative of good and evil and angels and demons and some of the Christian, Judeo, stories that we have around this, and you're putting it in more modern terms, which is like, your software's been corrupted.
Correct.
You've got a virus, basically, where something foreign has come in, which absolutely does influence your logic, your reason, your motivation, all sorts of things. What do you have a big picture of how God created the universe in the sense of, is shadow where God's free will just went rogue because they could? Or is God's shadow, from your perspective, designed to push us towards the light?
Yeah, both actually. Originally,
Okay.
this universe was granted to an overseer, a sort of a junior overseer, who came up with the idea of shadow and light in this spirit universe. Not talking about the physical universe. And
So God had an amateur
I have to
teacher.
keep remembering your question because there's so much
backstory
we're
to
very
kind of
deep,
right? Yeah, so that's a fascinating story too. So he's like, take over Earth, and that was an amateur. They screwed it up, and they brought in this idea.
Not Earth, the universe.
The universe, okay, even
Yeah,
worse.
this guy, this being, no, seriously, this being came up with the idea of shadow and light. So that shadow originally was a percentage, I'm being told to say right now, very important to know, in the quantum, right? In that huge quantum universe that got designed for this. The game plan, the idea was that light had an opposite, and that opposite was only held within a certain percentage, a certain quotient in that huge light of the quantum. This is so fascinating, Christopher. So that trigger, that shadow, was a small quotient, was a small percentage, and it was designed to generate an awakening, to generate, oh, I don't like something. Oh, I prefer this. I'm choosing, now this is really important. I'm talking advanced terms here. It was designed to generate a moment where, from the very important code words here, from the freedom of your untainted heart, love-filled heart, you choose love. From the freedom, not a fear-filled heart, but from an open, innocent, love-filled heart, you choose love from a moment where you interact with shadow. Fast forward all the interruptions and boot through the door, and no, let's just go back a little bit. So shadow is a software, as I've mentioned earlier, and this software, in all Terminator stories, self-replicates. Shadow is a software, and it's self-replicated, and it pervaded through the quantum. Mother Earth is where the experiment was going to be, of sentience, of souls incarnating to self-reflect and to amazing experiment to step into a physical experience, a physical hologram, thinking that it's solid, because we're just light beings stepping into a physical sort of movie, because it's not really solid at all. And so the experience of a soul being incarnated is just fascinating. So so Mother Earth was originally designed, you guys all know Barbara Marciniak books, was designed as a library, a genetic library, and it had a no-go zone around it because it was being held in preparation for sentience, for the experiment of sentience. And unfortunately, shadow, because it proliferated, it just, big hobnailed boot just bashed through and just started to incarnate and started to resonate and pour its software into this beautiful echo chamber of the physical dimension, particularly Mother Earth, and set up, because it knew that this was the crucible, this was the sort of pivot point of where the experiment was going to be, of self-love versus pain, or separation from self, self-recognition, alignment with self versus separation from self. So anyway, so long story short, right now we're way down the track with that. The software of shadow is and has been and was, especially up to the juncture point of 2012, horrendously in control, because it had just set up so many layers in the different dimensions, in the psychic dimension, so many home bases, all the way down to a very core sort of level in the psychic fields of Mother Earth. 2012 came, and a center core gateway in Mother Earth and her psychic energetic fields was about to get taken over by shadow. 2012, and that got closed just in time. Owned by light.
Phew.
Yeah, I know. So owned by, that's exactly right. Owned by light right there. And then the story of the pushback started, and the reoccupation of light through all those home bases, and percolating all the way back up and through humanity. So light's made a huge dent in that whole story now. It's pushing back, it's coming back. But
That's fascinating. Well, that's great. Go ahead.
We're witnessing shadow playing itself out, the collapse of huge shadow systems, and everyone can see what it really is on the world stage. It's just and have no doubt that what we're seeing on the world stage is completely owned, puppeteered by shadow in terms of the players on the world stage. So anyway,
so would you say we've disinfected then? I mean, at least at the core, it sounds like. I'm wondering, did light intervene at that point, or did humans make a choice? When you talk about 2012, which reminds me of the Mayan calendar. So the Mayan said we're over in 2012. It's all over. So somewhere they must have seen that was the shadow final takeover, which then, surprise, was there a higher being infiltration, or was it maybe you didn't see this, or was it human beings, light bulb turning off? What caused that turning point?
Intervention.
Okay.
Serious high creator level intervention from beyond universes coming in. Creator beings that are way above the creator being that designed this particular system.
Wow.
Coming in and going, this is seriously out of control. And a couple of things, Christopher, I just want to quickly mention. They came in seriously out of control, and with their authority light, excuse me, the level of authority of their light coming in and just bang, 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 just starting to just switch a lot of, shadow light back into light. And the original agenda of humanity making choices out of free will, I have to let you guys know, still stands. That agenda still stands. That is why we have to sort of grow up, and mature in our decision making, and at incredible juncture points of humanity with nuclear warheads, somebody about to punch a red button somewhere, or just incredible juncture points in humanity happening right now. The maturity of humanity as a group, and the kind of decision-making, collective decision-making and collective perception of what's going on, and the seeing what the truth of what's going on is actually, and it's part of that is resilience, part of that is courage, part of that is fearlessness, part of that is skill building around shadow. And that's actually when, sounds like a lot of ads, but when people jump into my sort of echo chamber and go up into the worlds of spirit, these courses and these spirit journeys start teaching you how to partner with these advanced spirit beings on your own shadow, about your own shadow, and what shadow is a little bit. You start actually seeing it from the spirit's point of view, from the spirit world's point of view. They show you, they teach you, they talk to you about it. So so skill building around that, and building up power, building up empowerment. I'm laughing because my last name Power, and so, building up real power, like multidimensional power. It's not like we actually build it ourselves, but we're actually, and this is a question in many people's minds too, we're actually walking with our spirit mentors. It's a team effort, guys. You're not giving your power away to these spirit mentors. They're giving your power back to you, right? They're kind of pushing you through learning curves so that you notice where your power is and you make the right choices, and they help and they debrief with you. So it's like they're handing it back to you on a platter. This is their training for us. and they're there, they're standing next to you, ready to, like a parent with a child, ready to just lift you over a puddle, right, or something. They're very strong, they're very high authority, and they've got the capability of doing that. So it's a key thing anyway, partnering with these beings.
Brilliantly so. And it seems like that's what your mission seems to be very much centered around helping people, making that connection, being a sort of a galactic tour guide and matchmaker, it sounds like, to higher beings, sort of like a rep, if you will, parachuted on Earth here to facilitate that. Is that what you call advanced spirit technology, by the way, what these higher beings reach in and do? Is that what you mean by that term?
That's correct. So it's not my technology, it's their technology, and that's why it's advanced. It's a euphemism for what they do, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very light term for what they actually do and what they're capable of doing, because of their authority and their capability of working with light waves and their authority over shadow resonance. So, and they're telling me to say, guys, it takes a serious senior level spirit technician to do what they do when it comes to facing large flows of shadow frequency up in the psychic worlds, and to deal with some of those shadow spirit mentors in individuals' soul wounds in their spirit soul history. It takes senior levels of spirit to do that, because, and they've got, and that's sort of the technology they use is authority. And I'm laughing and giggling about that because it's kind of like, has anyone ever thought of authority being a technology? But in resonance, like in the world of resonance, that's everything.
It seems like it is. Like when your father said, "Because I said so," there was like an authority there. There's an energetic, there's something about the I am consciousness of God where you can only use the powers if you know you have the authority, if you can own the authority of it. It seems like part of the magic that when you can command the authority, then you have the authority. And until you command the authority, you won't have the authority.
Oh, I love that. The building of authority is a thing in the worlds of spirit. The more exposure you have with these guys, they are walking you into your higher authority. And it comes with a lot of humility, and it comes with a lot of knowing that you can get your toes burnt at any moment. You know, it's like any martial artist. You know, they're not walking into a scary moment with bravado because they know what can happen at any moment. They've got their skill set, serious skill set, but it's hard work, like in that moment of interaction. So advanced spirit technology is all about them, what they do, and all of the different levels and levels and levels and levels of authority that are there, that are available. So there's many different, the worlds of spirit is a highly complex place, and with many different echelons and communities, and not just ETs, and you know, not just the galactic, and I'm talking way even beyond this universe teams. So it's yeah. I'm a researcher. I see myself as a researcher, and you know, that journalist vibe of walking forward. You will laugh, and you know, because you said right at the beginning when you were talking about Aries, you know, that they're the icebreakers, right?
Trailblazers, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trailblazers, yeah. So that's what I do. Doing the research, walking in there with all my teams, and learning and learning and learning from them, and turning around and speaking out loud 1% of what they've taught me and 1% of what I've seen. So yeah,
it's interesting how if you look at the size of the physical universe as far as the planets and the stars, it's a good metaphor for how big the consciousness of the the other side is. It's just beyond our comprehension how large it appears to be. We're just a speck, like a tiny dust particle. And our community, I have to say proudly, we're a very evolved community. We're very much we are just gobbling up what you have to offer is what I'm getting. And we're not beginners at this, but we are at the beginning of our connection to, I think, these higher realms. You have a phenomenal website. It's at soulmentoring.com. You also have a free video, how to hear spirit guides more clearly. Is that where you would start? Where should my community start working with you to begin this journey with you? What do you recommend?
Yes. Oh gosh, so that video's had way over 500,000 views on YouTube. That particular video, how to hear spirit guides more clearly. I think it's a 10-minute video, really short, but it just gives some really good pointers of how to flick some switches in your mind and how to sense your spirit guide and how to hear them more clearly. Because hearing more clearly is what I'm all about. So that video, I would like to offer everybody on this call, you guys, to come in on a course for free. This is a course connecting with your soul, but in that course, there's 26 little 5-minute little videos, little spirit journeys, actually, I take you on. And the course is called Soul Workout, and it's about soul clarity, standing in front of your soul, chatting with your soul, brainstorming with your soul about the next week or about your life, and hearing from your soul what it wants, not from your logic, that little 10% logic, but hearing what does your soul want to create for that week or for that day or for your life. Very important. Otherwise, you can be just traveling in very different directions, which sort of happened to me once, and I had a car accident. So very, very important alignment. So Soul Workout for free, guys, soulmentoring.com. This is where you go, soulmentoring.com/swan with a double N, SWANN.
Swan, that's beautiful though. And we have the link up on the screen as well at the same time. And I can't, I have to say the astrology completely, I mean, I don't know if you heard me, but in the horoscopes right now we have energy in Capricorn, sextiling energy in Pisces. And what that represents is the universe, I feel, just creating conscious currents to align our physical life with our soul's intention, which I think is, a big, to me, that's been where I've been lost. My life has these agenda, my soul has this agenda, and they haven't been working together, right? So that's a brilliant first step and necessary.
Yeah, very, very so important. My little story was after that 16 years of deep spiritual practice and being a leader in my communities with the spiritual practice, getting married, and my husband and I trying to start a business, which had nothing to do with my spirit. And having a car accident, $15,000 in my car, and I came out with virtually no injuries at all. But that night, lying down, someone was doing a bit of Reiki on me, and my spirit guide said, "Stop trying to kill yourself." This is, they literally said that to me.
They're so funny.
Yes, that's right. They said, your soul is so bored. You can't do this. You can't take your life and plug it into a business. You've just done all of this 16 years of spiritual training. You need to take your life seriously and start working full-time as a spiritual healer, which is what I did the next day. Walked away from a wage job and just jumped. And but that's just the story of alignment with your soul.
That's wonderful. It's a great story. It sounds like a logical first step. And from there, you have courses on your site that can start to introduce us to these higher realms, these higher beings, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And is there a logical
progression,
linear path with the courses, or is it sort of you gravitate to? Okay.
There is, and everybody listening, when you go onto my website, you're going to get Soul Workout for free. And then you can jump up into, there's a link that says store or courses. And there's a little introductory how to talk to your spirit guide, which really slowly, step by step, walks you into feeling energy, feeling a guide's energy, noticing the difference of different energies inside, and then meeting a guide through these 6 videos, meeting a guide, and then slowly, where are you listening to them, and just practicing with it. So it's a really nice slow walk through how to meet your guide, etc. 6 little videos, how to talk to your spirit guide. So that's a really good little intro course. And then the next, if you want to really hop in the deep end with a powerful course where your spirit guides show up, advanced authority spirit guides show up in front of you, and you discuss your soul evolution, module after module after module with them in slightly different ways each time. And that's called Spirit Tutor Connection. And you can find that on my website as well. That's the next step up.
It sounds, I love it. I love that you're empowering people to talk to their guides. And And that to me is such a remarkable, you're way ahead of your time. You must be happy now, the world. You've probably been a little bit of a lone fish out there for a while because you're really advanced. I mean, you're from the baby boomer generation and they're all peace, love, and unity. And you were like, who are my higher guides?
Yeah.
But
I have been very alone with this. And you know what? I think a little bit like you, 2006, starting live streaming on YouTube. Wow, I think you are very similar, where it's like just like,
yeah, you just stay on it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had this, just quickly, I had this little motto of, I don't know who I am. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to walk forward anyway. It's like knowing you've got amnesia, but you walk forward anyway, and you do all this anyway.
That was me too. It was, I have a feeling, ... And that's always been, and everyone's like, you can't build your life on a feeling. Well, here you go. I did. So it was following that feeling, following that vibe. I agree. But I think many lifetimes led to this one. So I was born ready out of the womb. My mom told me as a kid, don't get in the way of him and his projects. He turns into a grouchy boy. So I resonate with that. I love the work you're doing. Our audience loves you. I hope you'll come back again and we can go down this rabbit hole because you bring so much fascinating insight. And really this next era with the astrology is waiting for you, Alicia. I'm so glad you're here with us on this planet to be our guide.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm excited to meet you because I 100% get your depth of expertise. The kind of brains that astrologers have, mixed in with that intuition and that kind of God flow and what you're picking up from the ethers and from your spirit guides as you guys read, it's just incredible. You are amazing. You're so deeply experienced in this. So anyway, I'm excited to meet you too.
Thank you. Our soul family is coming together. Yay.
Yay.
And if you all didn't hear it, we posted a few times. We'll put it also, it's in our commentary, soulmentoring.com, Alicia Powers. And Alicia, if you wouldn't mind staying backstage, I'm just going to wrap up the show and we can chat for just a minute afterwards if you don't mind.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Really, it's just been such an honor. Really, really has.
It's just the beginning, I have a feeling. We have a lot of galactic territory this is our first chapter. I hope you'll come back again.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Till next time.
Thank you. Okay.
Ciao for now. Namaste. Wow, powerful. Technical stuff going on there. Hi, everyone. Wasn't she wonderful? Wow. I was actually amazed at how much she put me into a place of calm talking to her. Like, because I'm pretty rambunctious by nature, but I felt so calm. I loved all the comments, everyone. I do hope you'll look her up and follow some of her work. From what I've seen, it's remarkable. Also, her videos on YouTube are wonderful. And she's always this deep, by the way, always. I haven't ever seen her shallow in this entire course of studying her and researching her work. So I look forward to bringing her back on again. It's going to be great. Friends, I hope you have a wonderful launch here. I will catch you in outer space next week. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.